A warm welcome to everybody that joined. And we're nearing the end of this year's Fall Voices this year. For all of you who had been the experience of being at a Voices before, welcome back. For all of you who are near, welcome for the first time. Thanks all for joining. I know it's getting a little later for all the folks over here in Europe, so good afternoon to you. For everybody in the US, good morning, depending on what coast you're in. Good day to everybody else tuning in from all over the world. Yes, a little over an hour ago, Martin, our CEO, had the chance to announce some big news and speak about Staffbase and our idea of employee experience and how to get to a great employee experience with internal comms. And that's what I want to focus on in this session today for the next roughly 40 minutes that we have. Talk about the platform that we have here at Staffbase, how our customers use this, what type of functionalities are standing out at the moment, and what the next stuff is around the corner. If you want to see the slides enlarged, then please just double tap on the slides that should be somewhere here below me, and when you double tap them, they get large and like in the usual presentation. So just before we start, some quick words to me. I'm Patrick Rudolph. I'm leading the product strategy and development here at Staffbase since 6 years, since we founded the company. Actually, that means that I'm working with internal communications and employee experience professionals from around the world, people like you, to understand your needs, the needs of your organization, and using that to build great products for you. We've been, like I said, we've been doing this since a couple of years and now have 400 organizations, many of them global enterprises. And if we would have to describe Staffbase today in one graphic, that is probably how it would look like. At the center of it, at the core of it, it's a communications tool that's critical for employee experience. So if you look at the inner circles, you see that we're reaching all the employees with a mobile-first approach, getting the app through a mobile app store. It is tailored to individual personas, try to be as specific as possible to the people and as relevant as possible. And it's on brand. It's branded to the company. People can feel at home with their company. And when you look at the outer circle, you see kind of the areas that we cover in terms of communication. You see content, engagement, interaction between people, feedback, but also providing services. So with all of that, we try to improve the employee experience at companies. And we believe that this is working pretty well. And that's also what kind of the statistics and the numbers are showing us. So like I said, we have 400 companies that are working with us around the globe. 76% of the monthly active employees are also using the app weekly. So that's kind of showing that this is not something that you just go in very infrequently, but it's something that is usually used at least once on a weekly basis by employees. And if you look at the top right, we had 2 to 3 times the usage during the peak of the Corona crisis, which really shows that this is not just one optional tool or something that is uninteresting for employees, but it's really become a tool that is a trusted source of information for employees to go to in times of need for information in times of crisis. Below, just a couple of awards, one from the business review platform G2, one from the Clearbox report, which is a very comprehensive report that they usually do in intranets, and they just did one on employee apps, and Staffbase has scored there as the employee app choice. And we just recently, just this week, had 2 awards, 2 internal communications awards here in Germany for 2 of our customers, and that really shows that this product is generating value within organizations. So one thing that we learned this year, apart from the status quo, right, looking ahead, one thing that we learned this year is that internal communications is seeing a huge boost in relevancy. I guess that all of you can see this at work with the times that we have and with the situation that we have this year. And with that relevancy, we also see a move from just broadcasting news, just being a channel, to really being an enabler of corporate strategy. And that's what we believe is also the future for Staffbase. That's the mission that we want to support you on. And this is why we see the next iteration, next version of Staffbase to become your mission control, the one central tool that you can use to cover all these different phases of your work in one centralized tool. And to explain that a little bit better, I tried to visualize that here in 4 different phases of your work. And we'll just briefly go through them right now, and then we'll look in detail at what the Staffbase platform already provides with each of these phases and what's up around the corner. So first of all is strategize. That's where things start, right? You set a goal and you create a strategy on how to reach that goal. That's very important, and we also just heard that on the main stage. That the strategy is obviously where everything roots in. And part of that also, obviously, you're planning your personas, your target groups, your key campaigns, the structure of your different channels. All of that is obviously part of strategizing. The next phase after that is building. I believe that's where most of your work is being spent on a daily basis. Building and creating content, that's where the magic happens. So news posts, if we're really honest, news posts got pretty boring in the last couple of years, right? It's always the same scheme. And we think that every story should be an experience. And we want to try to provide ways on how to create that experience, but also how you publish content, how you manage content, how you offer services to your employees. The third phase, and that's where the employees come into play, that's where the real magic happens, right? That's where you try to engage them. That's where you try to inspire them throughout all the touch points. You try to capture their interest and provide ways for interaction, make sure they find what they need also besides what you just give them. And last but not least, that's where the loop is being closed. And arguably, that's also the phase that is probably being left out the most, that you really go in and try to understand the metrics, try to analyze on what the feedback looked like on your survey, or what the usage statistic looked like, in order to understand what kind of impact you really made and be able to adapt and iterate for the next for the next strategizing and building phase. So we believe that the future of our platform is this mission control. So let's have a look at each of the phases. Before we do that, I would like to run a quick poll with all of you. And if you look into, I'm just going to read it out quickly. How many tools are in use at your company for plan and create internal communication, engaging the workforce, and understanding the impact? So basically, all these phases, if you count that together, how many tools are you interacting with in your team in order to get those jobs done? And if you just hop in our conference tool here, if you go to polls on the top right side, you will see that poll being created with the options 1 or 2, less than 5, between 5 and 10, or more than 10, or I don't know. So it would be fantastic if all of you could have a quick chance to look at that vote, and then later on I'll come back to look into where we are with this. Thank you. All right, moving on for now. The first phase that I want to talk about is strategize, right? Defining your goals, your strategy, and putting in the first steps. I just saw a question really quick come in. Tools or vehicles, channels. Tools that help you with those 4 phases, right? So if you have channels that are also allow you to build, create content, to engage with your employees, then yes, I would say count them in as well. Hope that answers the question. Thanks. Perfect. Cool. And others, if you have questions, please feel free to use the chat. We also have Lisa in here to answer, and I'm going to try my best also to observe it. Perfect. Back to strategize. So we want to have this more strategic impact. It means we need to think and act strategically, right? Let's look at Staffbase today. we already offer a customer success approach that is based on consulting and that doesn't just help you to set up the platform, but actually with your customer success manager at Staffbase, you're going to in-depth discuss, and the existing customers can confirm that, you're going to discuss your approach to communications, kind of learn from best practices from the other 400 customers and companies and how they use the platform in order to engage their employees, right? At the same time, we have this blog of ours where we constantly post content that helps internal communications teams around the world, improve their work, engage their workforce. And in this case, the example that you see here is this adjusted business model canvas, where one of our founders, Frank Wolf, tried to adapt this for internal communications in order to give you a better plan for next year, to have a strategic approach to internal communications. When we look within the product, you already have ways in Staffbase to, for example, define personas based on the user group functionality that we have. And then you can use that for targeting content or for looking into analytics based on those user groups, based on those personas that you defined. At the same time, you can also structure your app with spaces and news channels, all of them also highly flexible with targeting. So that gives you a chance to also strategically decide who should receive what. At the same time, we're also talking about a couple of different channels, right? There's an app, there's an intranet, you have possibilities for email notifications, and if you're going deeper in terms of integrations, there are also other things possible already with Staffbase in terms of different touch points, different channels. And last but not least, if you have a larger initiative, then you already have ways, for example, with our new stage carousel or the important tag, to make this shine. So there's already quite a bit that is there, but at the end of the day, a mission control for strategic internal communications work should have a bit more. And we see that the same way. And that's why we're currently looking into this topic and trying to understand what the kind of the topics and the requirements are that you internal communications professionals are interested in, that you would like to have in a platform that allows you strategic planning. So what we see here is stuff like being able to create campaigns and larger initiatives within Staffbase and define a target audience and personas, assign a common label, and then plan your actions within this campaign, right? At the same time, you want for each of those campaigns to get an overview of what that content is that you're running and how it performs, right, as a campaign together, not just individually as a content. You want to add surveys in order to understand the impact with your audience and really have that tightly integrated to that campaign. And naturally, that kind of helps within Staffbase to also connect other types of content to this campaign. And that's a direction that we want to head into. Editorial calendar, content planning, a lot of different opportunities that we see here to make your life easier, especially in the strategy and planning phase within Staffbase. And then when we look at the next phase, the building phase, that you use this directly for creating content, for example. So let's look at this building phase, right? Two things that we're seeing here is, one is that news are getting a little bit outdated. Title, outline, teaser image, and a wall of text. That's usually how news articles look like today. So there's a huge opportunity to create more engaging formats for your stories. Maybe not for each of them, but for the ones that really matter, for the ones where you want to make an impact. If you just came from the main stage, the ones that are in your third bucket, in your promote bucket, basically. At the same time, creating content means you also have to take care of managing it. So let's talk about that as well, and what Staffbase can do here. First, I wanna talk about a very important feature for us that we just launched 2 months ago and that we're super excited about, and it's called Journeys, and something that is quite new to the internal communications world. And it's about designing content paths that are highly tailored through targeting, placeholders, dynamic widgets. And what I mean with that is that you basically create a series of news articles. You decide who should be able to see those news articles, and then what the platform will do is it will automatically send out these articles to the employees at the right time. So one easy example to understand this is onboarding. The new employee joins the company, and on the first day, they get an email with a welcome video from the CEO. On the third day, they get an email where the senior leadership greets them and they introduce themselves. And on the fifth day, they get another article with a survey asking them how their first week in the company was, right? That is something that internal communications together with HR, for example, could be having as a journey. But there are also other possibilities, for example, guiding through the app and explaining things, change management, role and location changes, and the process that comes along with that is something that you can very easily set up with a journey and in a scalable way, right? With just one journey, cover hundreds or thousands of employees in a very individualized way, tailored to them. Super interesting feature, super exciting. We're more than happy to help you to set it up, tell you about it. Our customer success and product teams are eager to hear about your requirements and how you would use it. So please let us know if you're interested. The other thing that I already talked about briefly now are these more exciting formats for news, right? News is really, that's the core of your work. That's what you do. It's the core of communications. And for the big campaigns that you have, the big initiatives, the big posts, the ones where you're working or looking forward to for weeks, and then you get it out and you look at the engagement every hour that it's out, you really want those to shine. So one small thing that we thought of that could help with that is joyful animations, right? It seems like a small thing, but just seeing such an animation when you enter a news article and getting, a different feeling about, oh, this must be something special. What is this about? And at the same time, not just for news articles, but you could also use this for journey steps, right? So, for example, when an employee joined, you can have balloons that go with it. And this will be out with the next release at Staffbase in about a month, and it will come with various types of animations. So we also have snowflakes for the CEO announcement. It's a neat little thing, but we think it can help with making things more engaging. Else is to also generally improve the UX of the app. So if you have image galleries, for example, what your employees are expecting is the UX that they are seeing in their social platforms today. So having animations that go like this, having really smooth image galleries that let you highlight the images from the last company event or from the last product launch in a much better way. Additionally, we think about other exciting formats. For example, New York Times sometimes uses story formats that are mostly based on images that you can slide through. We're looking in that direction. We're looking at polls and surveys that are better combined and more easily integrated within news posts, but also embedding your plugins as interactive widgets into your stories. That is something that's actually already going to be possible with the next release. That, for example, you have an event registration plugin within Staffbase, and there's a special event that you want to promote. Then you can now embed this event within the news post and make it side by side. Awesome. I see some engagement for the joyful animations and the polls. That's yes, perfect. That's what we're looking for. Reach out if you have questions, obviously. Happy to show you more of that. Talking about widgets, one important aspect of creating in Staffbase and building content is that you include services and information that your employees need. So for non-desk workers, this might be something like an HR self-service, but for your colleague in marketing, it might rather be that integration with Microsoft Teams because they're working in that tool all the time. So something that we're launching with the next release of Staffbase is a whole host of different widgets that you can integrate into your pages and that give small information, small pieces from the Microsoft ecosystem and directly show them within Staffbase so that also your white-collar workers can directly use Staffbase as their entry into their day at work, and then they can jump out for more specialized tasks. So something like the calendar exchange widgets that you see here on the top right, that's obviously just a mock-up to show you all the different possibilities. Task widget, feed in Teams, as well as an overview of your different teams in Microsoft Teams, SharePoint sites widget, and a files widget for SharePoint and OneDrive. Just a few of the new possibilities. When things get a little more techy, there's another thing there. It's a Power Automate connector. That's a product from Microsoft, which allows both tech people but also non-tech people to easily integrate different tools with each other. And we now have a Power Automate connector, which allows you to automatically create news posts in Staffbase, synchronize users, or notify an employee about something that happened in a different system through Staffbase. For example, if they don't have easy access to that third-party system. I was briefly talking about HR service integrations, and that's something that we're also currently working on, is a Workday integration. Workday obviously is a tool that many of our customers are using, many companies out there are using, so we want to make sure that this is as seamless as possible, that, for example, employees see vacation days within Workday, or within their profile in Staffbase, they directly see an overview of their team. We're also currently working on Google Suite, and we hope to be able to release a lot of those integrations very soon. If you still don't have enough of the term widgets and integrations and want to get your IT folks hooked into this, then I have some more exciting news for you. You can even build your own widgets, right? So far, you already had the possibility to create own plugins within Staffbase, own mini apps. And now with the next release, we'll also launch capabilities that you don't have to build large functionalities, but you can build something really small that integrates with an existing system, for example, on your site, and that is then embedded within a news post, within a page, within Staffbase. And that's something that's also very simple to do and comes with documentation to help set this up. So let us know if you're interested there. There is, just checking, there's one question in the chat. Can you give an example of a custom widget? Absolutely, yes. Let's say, for example, you have a cantina menu at your factory. And this is a different system, right? This is some proprietary system that you have built for yourself, and your employees are checking this, but it's not easily mobile optimized. So something that you could do is you could run a very small project with your IT that they build a custom widget that only shows the meals for today and the next day. And then you have a mini widget with those two meals or this this plan of meals, and you can then show those on your start page, and all the employees can access this cantina menu. Hope that illustrates one example. Obviously, there's all kinds of examples of tools that you're using that you could. It depends on what your employees need, really. And usually, cantina menu is a good place to start. Cool. Awesome. The one other thing I want to show is that obviously we're talking about publishing experience a lot, right? That is where editors spend most of their time creating content, managing content, publishing content. One thing that was a pain and that we heard requests about was when you create a different language of a content, an additional language in our multi-language feature, that you then don't directly have a translation of it. You have nothing to start with, right? And what we now will release with our next launch is that upon the creation of a new language, you can directly choose to automatically mesh in translate this with Microsoft Translate. And you might want to still review and polish this translation, obviously, as it's not perfect, but you have a place to start with. And that, again, makes life easier for editors. We're really careful with the editing experience because we hear that is one of the benefits of Staffbase, that they say it's a very simple system, yet it covers all the editor's needs. So we are very careful to add additional functionality here, but obviously there's still ways, for example, to provide more guidance to editors on how to create engaging content, or to refine how to have workflows with drafting in Staffbase. So those are all the areas that we're looking at as well. Last but not least, in this area of creating and managing content is pages. We have a couple of customers, obviously by now, that are using Staffbase as an intranet, and some of them have a lot of pages. And what starts with a few can quickly get out of hand, at least in terms of the numbers. And that means that it also gets harder to manage them. So two of the features that were implemented now and that will be launched with the next release of Staffbase are trying to help editors and content owners with pages. One of them is page versioning. So you will be able to see previous versions of pages and be able to restore them without losing any crucial content. The other one is page templates. Obviously, that helps you to define templates that are going to be reused within the organization, make sure that everybody uses the same consistent style within the company, inspire editors, and enable them to create the most engaging content. So those are two features that we're very excited about. They will be available for our intranet customers. Please let us know if you're interested. All right. That gets us to the third category. Once you strategized, you have your campaigns ready, your messages, your channels set up, then you build content, engaging and inspiring your employees. That is really where the magic starts. That's where you start actually having the impact that you wanted to have, right? And there are a couple of things to look at here, a couple of different aspects. And I would say that this is the phase where Staffbase already is strongest. That's where we see we see a high adoption, high activity rates, and so on. But still doesn't mean that there isn't work to be done, right? The first thing that I want to focus on here that we're currently looking at is the different touch points, the different channels in your ecosystem. What we already provide, obviously, in order that you reach all your employees, is the app and the intranet. So the mobile first focus already helps to be able to reach all the employees, but it might not work for every company the same way. It might not work for every stage of every company the same way. So that's why we're seeing there are also these other things. There is Microsoft Teams, for example, for desk workers, where we already, like I just said, have a lot of deep integrations with. But then you still see that email is a large topic, especially when we talk to companies in the US. We also hear that messages, just text messaging, for example, is still a big topic. Digital signage in factory floors obviously is something. Town halls and videos, obviously Staffbase has video capabilities, but running a full town hall is something that you currently would have to use a partner with. Desktop notifications. So there's a lot of different possibilities, and strategically we're right now at a point where we are collaborating with companies, and would also love to get your input on what the next steps should be here, where your focus lies, where you do see the needs for the next year. So happy to hear from you. Another topic that is much clearer and that we're working on actively at the moment is search. Search obviously is extremely important for employees to be able to find the content, right? So this is opposite to news that you push to the employees and you try to engage them and try to hook them. Search is the other way around. It's employees trying to find information or services that they need, and they have an idea of what's the name of it and how to find it, and then they use the search. That's already possible in Staffbase, but there are a couple of things that can be added to it to make this even better of an experience for employees. One of the things is that I showed here in the small-up is searching within a page, right? So as we're on mobile, pages can get pretty long. Using widgets, accordion, some content is even hidden initially. Having an in-page search allows you to directly find what you're looking for, even within a page. Another thing that we're really excited about is providing different categories, different filters for search. That's something that we're actively working on at the moment. Being able to find files within Staffbase. And we did a first step in the direction of federated search. So also being able to find content from other systems within your company when using the Staffbase search. And that's obviously a very important topic when thinking about being the front door, the one thing where everybody starts their work, the one tool that you want to also find in all the different systems. And we will provide a search API for that and a couple of standard integrations along with the Microsoft one we already have now. Okay, now we talked about touch points, we talked about finding content. Another thing that is really engaging and inspiring for employees, if you provide them services that they are also interested in, that they are likely to open the app for and go into the app and really use it because they want to. And we have a couple of plugins together with our partners, but some provided by Staffbase directly that are doing exactly this. One example is the event registration plugin that you're seeing here that is especially heavily used now in Corona times for the few events that you might still have and you have tight registration requirements, or for office registration, for example. What we just recently did is we revamped the entire design and brought it to the latest app style and added important functionalities like recurring events, exporting participants, working with links in event descriptions, having additional fields, for example, like food restrictions, all these kind of things. The team is also working on our Christmas quiz at the moment and this Cantina menu that we used as an example earlier. Staffbase has also a functionality for that, and we're currently improving that. All right. Just as before we're heading to the next session, just checking this poll really quickly. We had a couple of votes there for the question of how many tools you're using for, for this whole internal communications flow, the 4 different stages at your company. And what we're seeing here is that most of you answered with less than 5. And then the next option was 1 to 2, and some people also answered 5 to 10. And some votes are also still coming in. So it looks like most of you have less than 5 tools in total to cover this area. And I think that's also positive news that when we want to create one central tool here at Staffbase, that we're replacing a couple of tools in your company, but we're not replacing 10 or 20 tools. So it's rather a good measurement. Thank you for participating. All right, and that leads us to the last section for the presentation today, and that's about understanding, about measuring the success after you acted, getting feedback from your employees, for example, via surveys, using these insights to improve and to iterate, provide an even better employee experience. And what we are seeing here is that so far, we're most importantly covering one side, right? If you're communicating, if you're engaging, if you're offering services, you're trying to make an impact, you're usually looking at the left side of the screen. You're trying to foster employee experience, and that's great. And you're already in the top bucket of employers there if you're doing that. But at the same time, if you're not doing the right side, if you're not closing the loop by also measuring, asking employees, if that impact was reached with them, if they are satisfied, if they are engaged, then you're missing out on having that closed loop, on actually understanding if your actions did lead to that effect. And we heard the very exciting news from our CEO, Martin, a little earlier today. You were part of this. He announced a financing round at Staffbase, which underlines our ambition to be a platform with strategic impact. But more excitingly, he announced that we acquired a company in the employee survey space, and that is TeamBay. And with that, I want to welcome Sarah here with me on stage, who is the CEO of TeamBay and now joined us with her team as a product lead here at Staffbase. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you, but it's an even bigger pleasure not just to have you here at Voices, but to have you at Staffbase. You and the fantastic team that you build around yourself, and together pushing that mission for hearing the voice of employees.
Thanks a lot. We're also looking forward to joining the big Staffbase mission. And the last weeks have been super interesting, and we're very hyped and excited. So yeah, thanks for having such a warm welcome in the company as well.
Absolutely. For the listeners here, Sarah, do you want to say a couple of quick sentences to yourself?
Yeah, sure. More than happy to. So hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the session. And maybe just a few words to who am I and why am I looking into surveys? So my name's Sarah Manis. We already mentioned that a few times, and my background's in HR and basically talent development. And one of my biggest problems when I was still working in corporate was basically that it was very difficult to get feedback from employees on a short-term basis. So could be anything from like a change, a merger, multiple like things were going on, or even projects, and it was really hard to just like get people involved. So that's why we came up with TeamBay, which is basically like a software for online surveys, which is super easy and intuitive, and making surveys easy and automated. And we've looked at multiple, like so many topics of like quick pulse to like extensive surveys, different formats, and also of course different contents depending on what everyone's like going through, from culture to maybe the meal plan that you just mentioned. This is also actually something that comes up quite a lot. So yeah, that's basically where we're coming from.
People like food, right?
That's right, and it's very important.
So this all sounds very exciting, but at the same time, Voices is a conference for internal communications, right? And it sounds like some of that stuff is super exciting for HR folks. But can you give us a little bit more insight on why internal communication should also be excited about this?
Sure, absolutely. So from our perspective, no survey has ever been successful without a good communication. So within the last years, we've always, or most of the time, been working with HR and internal communications, or at least internal communications was a huge part of it. And a lot of times we also saw that it was not just the HR topics that were important, but internal comms has an interest in understanding employees because the content is, of course, just as good as people perceive it to be. So yeah, the more like internal comms came into play, the more we realized that internal comms has a huge game changer here at hand to understanding, what kind of news makes sense, how do we get there? And that's basically the learning that we had within the last years.
Makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Sarah. If anyone in the audience has questions to that or has reactions, I mean, you're the internal comms professionals, so but please let us know. We would be more than happy to engage on that. In the meantime, Sarah, can you all makes sense totally? Can you still name a couple of examples of what that could be? Internal comms.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned like the obvious case, I'll say, to kind of get feedback from employees on the communication itself, on the channels, on the way things are being communicated. But one of the most used cases that we had is also including management, because management has a really hard time getting feedback from time to time. I mean, yes, general surveys give me an overview, but sometimes I just really want to get quick feedback on the communication I probably just did on a town hall meeting, or maybe just in general on a couple of things. And something that we, for example, call Quick Pulse is the ideal tool to just get a quick feedback to the management. Sometimes we have things implemented like Ask the CEO Anything, which is kind of even like a live format of a survey where people can ask questions and then the CEO would answer them in a live format. So this is like just one of the use cases that would happen. A regular case as well is, thanks for changing the slide, perfect. So there's like a few cases also mentioned. There's like measuring the employees' engagement. Sometimes that's done with the eNPS. So most of you guys probably also know the NPS, which also exists for employees, to kind of get an idea, how likely are people to recommend us as an employer? And of course, as I also mentioned from my own experience, monitoring employees' sentiments or also ideas during times of projects or change. So this year with COVID was a perfect example of when, as well management, but also internal comms and HR needed to understand very quickly how can we react to this? How can we get people involved? What do we need to understand in this change? And then set up a lot of like different questions and surveys in order to understand these kind of topics.
Got you. Thanks for that overview. It makes a lot of sense. And I also feel like a lot of these directly fall or fit to some of the things I mentioned earlier with the campaigns that are planned from a strategic perspective and then combining surveys to measure that impact. Fantastic. Now one question that obviously a lot of people directly have is, okay, so you just joined this company. What's next? What's now coming?
What's ahead? That's a good question. So you already see that little screen, which is just like a sneak peek. So one of the core features that we always offered is a so-called Quick Pulse, which is an easy automated way of having a regular feedback from employees. So of course, you could also set it up for like a one-time survey after a meeting, but you could also set it up in a recurring way. So I don't know, maybe you want to have a quick feedback on the workday once a week or daily or every 2 weeks. Having an eNPS, for example, once a month. So something that's super easy and quick, but gives you a fast insight into how people are feeling. So this is basically what we're starting to build now. This is going to be available within the coming months. So we're trying to get Staffbase customers and customers to be a quick insight into what people are feeling like. And in general, from that, we're going to top up into different areas of surveys, from in-depth surveys with also content that's ready to use, and then offering all the connections that Staffbase already offers to get into, you know, different locations, different employee groups, getting the right surveys and the right feedback at the right time, and kind of giving like a lot of insight into these survey worlds.
Nice. At the right time sounded like journeys. Nice. The perfect. We have one question from the audience. Morten asks, will TeamBay be integrated in Staffbase or still available as a standalone?
Yeah, so basically we're still supporting our system for the foreseeable future, but what we're building in Staffbase will basically be the updated or better version of TeamBay, I would even call it, because we are going to use all of the knowledge that we have or gained throughout the last years and combining it with the power of an intranet or like a mobile communication solution, which basically means that all of the features that we had in TeamBay will be built in an improved kind of way from a UX perspective, but also from, you know, content-wise. So there will be some more features, and then it will also be connected to all of these, maybe even some of the joyful parts. So you can create a survey with some snowflakes for business time. So basically, all of this will come together in an updated version.
Makes a lot of sense, especially with this combination to internal communications content.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Great. Thanks so much, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Feel free to stick around as we have the last couple of minutes of the session. I just want to actually one more survey, one more poll that we can quickly run before we end this session. If you go into your polls section again, you should be seeing a poll on the bottom, and this is, would more employee survey options help with your internal communications work? The options are yes, absolutely, maybe a bit, not really, and I don't know. And obviously, this is feedback that Sarah and I would definitely appreciate. And also, not just this survey, definitely feel free to reach out to us. So we're more than happy to speak with anybody right now who is in internal communications and interested in employee surveys, who is in HR and wants to work together with internal communications on employee surveys, everything like that. Reach out to us.
Yeah, definitely. We're also still looking for some pilot clients. So if anyone of you is interested in having some click arounds and trying out some new stuff, please get in touch. So we're still looking for people to test.
Perfect. I'm looking at the live scores here. It's so far it's a split between yes, absolutely, and maybe a bit. We only have one I don't know, which I was, to be honest, and then we have one not really. But it looks positive so far. That's a good thing. Cool. Just quickly looking at the rest of the presentation as we're wrapping up this part of voices here this fall. There are obviously other possibilities than just surveys that I want to just for the sake of completeness also mention. One of them is our analytics dashboard, which already allows internal communications teams today to analyze the activity that is going on in news posts, channels, content, services, pretty much all kinds of parts within Staffbase. You're able to measure in there what's happening and be able to better understand if your content, for example, was successful and hit the targets. In the future, we want to combine this also closer with content, for example, your campaigns. And we also, if we're diving into more and different channels, we also want to look at success across multiple channels. So that's interesting areas. And last but not least, a new functionality that we're very proud of is Smart Reach. And this is currently being rolled out step by step. And it's based on Reach Analytics from our last release, where you can see how many people read a post, how many of your audience, and then you can decide if you want to push a post again. And the special thing about this is we will only approach the employees that have not read the post yet. So nobody will get an unnecessary notification, will get unnecessarily disturbed. This is called Smart Reach. It's available in Staffbase. And the first measurements that we saw with some of our pilot customers was that Smart Reach improved the reach of that specific content by 10 to 30%. So this is quite substantial, very exciting. Also, let us know if you want to talk about this. I'm just looking quickly at the chat as we're wrapping up. We see JJ Tyler who asks, who do we get in touch with? Depends. If you're a customer at Staffbase, get in touch with your customer success manager, and then we'll set up a call. If you're not a customer at Staffbase yet, visit staffbase.com or write an email to hi@staffbase.com, and then we'll make sure you get connected. Alrighty. And that's how we close the loop, not just for this presentation, but also for this idea of being a mission control for internal communications professionals. I hope you liked the presentation and you found some valuable insights here. Like I said, if you have any questions for this, any insights, any feedback to share, please reach out to us. And otherwise, I would say we're right on time to have, let me check. I think we're now up for a small break. And yes, there's a small break until the next full hour, and then we're going on with our last session today, our closing keynote on a very important topic, the new language of racism. So please make sure to stay for that and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.